Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Colden Company's presentation, Improving Business Communications, the Modern Phone System. My name is Jim Lapointe, and all attendees are in listen-only mode for the presentation. If you have questions inside of WebEx, there is a Q&A button where you can enter questions. There's also a chat if you prefer to use that. Feel free to use either one of those, and I'll address those at the end of the presentation. Okay, so let's get started here. First, a little bit about us. For those of you that are not familiar with Colden Company, we are an information technology service organization. Just means we're computer guys and gals. We were founded in 2003, so we just passed our 16-year anniversary. And we have offices in St. Augustine, Florida, which is where I'm talking to you from today, as well as in Ballston Spa, New York. And we have many leading technical certifications. What's pertinent for today is we have multiple people CompTIA Network Plus certified. All right, so our agenda for today, we're going to be talking about why cloud voice over IP, which is also called hosted PBX, why that's become a new standard for phone systems. We're going to talk about some things that you probably have concerns about with a phone system: reliability, security, quality of service. Those are things that you need to have with a system. We'll dig into some of the features, and then we'll answer some of the questions at the end. Okay. So first of all, why go with a cloud-based voice over IP system? Well, for starters, cloud-based means there's no on-premise hardware for you to maintain. So there's a very low cost of entry. So with voice over IP, I want you to think Skype. Really, your data communication network is what your voice traffic is going to be using with a voice over IP system. So in a traditional phone system, or what they called POTS, or plain old telephone service, your voice communication went over separate analog phone lines, the old 4-wire phone lines. With voice over IP, your traffic is essentially data traffic. It's the same as your computer traffic. So what that means is you're essentially treating your phone system like any other computer program, right? So that really led to an explosion in functionality of phone systems over a traditional system. So I want you to think Skype, but also think increased functionality. When we're talking about voice over IP, you get a lot of functionality that we're going to hit on later in the presentation here in comparison to a traditional system. So again, cloud-based just means that all of the necessary phone system hardware is not sitting in your office. It's in the cloud somewhere at whatever vendor you choose, and they're maintaining that for you. So there's very, very little upfront cost and for you to maintain. So that's why cloud systems have become popular. There's some other reasons when we talk about reliability that we'll touch on in a bit here as well. So one of the first questions I want to address is essentially your phones are going to be like any other device on your network in a voice over IP system. They're going to be network devices like any computer. When your cell phone attaches to the Wi-Fi, it's on the network. Your office phone is going to be on the network as well, and presumably connected to a network jack. So in some instances, some offices might only have one data jack in that office. Most voice over IP phones come with a built-in jack, one to connect to the wall jack, but then a pass-through port so that you can connect your computer into that back of the phone so that it can essentially share that network connection. So that's a question we often get is, well, I don't have enough ports to be able to put another device on my network here. 99% of the voice over IP phones have that jack in the back to allow that to connect over a single wall jack. Okay, so you probably have some concerns with your phone system. Is my system going to be reliable? How secure is it? And can you guarantee my call quality? So what we're going to do is we're going to address each of those individually here. Now let's start with reliability. So the vendor that we're working with is a company called Intermedia. they provide a guaranteed 99.999% uptime. They call that 5 nines. So comparing that to some of the competitors, they all sound the same, right? Oh, we offer 99.9% reliability. Well, if you do the math on that, 99.9 is going to give you acceptable downtime of almost 9 hours over the course of a year. Whereas the 5 nines that Intermedia is offering works out to be 5 minutes a year. So there is quite a difference in the reliability guarantee that you're getting from Intermedia. So a little bit about Intermedia, first of all. They've been in business since the mid-90s. They started out as the first company to offer hosted exchange, which is Microsoft's email platform. They quickly became not only the first, but the largest hosted internet provider in the world. Microsoft came out with their Office 365 product, which directly competed with Intermedia's hosted exchange. It became kind of difficult to compete with Microsoft since Exchange is really their product, and they're heavily pushing Office 365. So Intermedia still offers hosted exchange, and they still offer the same features and guarantees, but they kind of made the shift into hosted PBX as well. So all of the phone system computers that they're hosting are running on that same infrastructure that have been running hosted email systems for so many years. So this is not new infrastructure. This is proven, guaranteed uptime that they've been doing for years. Now, Colden Company has been partnered with Intermedia, probably 8+ years at this point, and they've proven to be very reliable, and they do meet that 99.999% uptime. So in terms of reliability, one of the questions that you might have is, okay, since this is data traffic, what happens if my internet were to go down? So let's talk about that for a minute. I've got a couple of slides here. So on this first slide, let's say it's not a hosted voice over IP, but you've got some kind of on-premise phone system. You've got, I guess Trixbox was kind of the first one that came out as a computer that would sit in your office, and when calls would come in, they would come to that system, and that system would then determine where the calls need to go. So in that scenario where you've got a PBX system on site and somebody tries to call you and the internet is out, that's what that red X is indicating there. The caller can't get through to that voice over IP system that's on premise. It's going to result in a missed call. So they're going to get a fast, busy signal and no communication is going to take place. So with the cloud PBX system, when the caller calls your number, it's going to hit that phone system that's in the cloud. It's going to answer, hello, this is Colden Company, press 1 for support, 2 for sales, or whatever your auto attendant happens to be if you have one. Then that phone system is going to try to pass that call through to your phone. And it's going to notice, whoops, I can't get through. It looks like there's no internet connection to that site. What you do is you build in ahead of time the redundancy. So you would say, all right, if you can't get through to Jim at extension 102, as an example, my backup plan for that is to call his cell phone at my cell phone number. The beauty of this is you can have different failover numbers for all the different extensions. So they don't have to be the same. If you have a second office, as an example, you could make your main number roll over to that one if your internet goes down. But each individual person that has a phone can decide what their failover is going to be. So in that scenario, the caller tries to reach you. The phone system can't get through to your local phone because your internet's down. It's going to go to the failover plan. In my case, or my example, my cell phone, I'm still getting the call. I'm reaching that customer and having that phone conversation. Okay, Intermedia's data centers are geographically dispersed. They have at least 8 different data centers in North America alone. They've got others around the world as well. They've got over 100,000 customers. They've been in business for many years. As I said, they think they started around 1995. They actually they're on their 3rd generation of the cloud voice over IP system. So Colden Company has customers running version 1, 2, and 3. They're all still working and working well. So this is not a new system. It's not a fly-by-night system. They handled over 2 billion minutes of phone calls in 2017. So they're doing some big business here. The data centers are all biometrically controlled, so we're talking about security now. They're in highly secured facilities. They're compliant with major standards like HIPAA and PCI. Their data centers are also SSAE 16 compliant, which is kind of a technical certification that data centers should have if they're handling data. The connections to the data center are encrypted. There's some other things that they do that are really nice. They have filtering out of known bad callers, so you don't need to worry about blocking them, although you do have the ability to block calls if they make it through. But they keep a list that they're continually updating of known bad callers and putting them on the block list for you. They also have something called toll fraud detection. So that's really to prevent hackers that might try to break into your phone system and make calls on your nickel, essentially. They have toll fraud detection and protection to root those out. Now, because this is a data system, it's run through computers, there's also logins and passwords to the back-end servers where you do the configuration. So you can either have Colden Company do that configuration for you, which we're happy to do, or if you want to get in there and do your own configuration, you have the right and ability to do that yourself as well. We definitely recommend strong passwords. Just like any computer, if somebody breaks the password, they're going to have access to the system. So for us here at Colden, we use two-factor authentication. So if we're trying to log in to do any configuration for somebody's phone system, we have to put in our username and password, but beyond that, we have to use a second method of authentication. We have to insert a token that is generated based on our account. It changes every 30 seconds. So, we take security very seriously here. For you can do that or not do that if you don't want to do two-factor authentication, but we're definitely going to push you towards a strong password for access to the system. So we like to keep things nice and secure. Okay, let's talk about quality of service. Another key differentiator between our system and a lot of others is we do thorough testing before actually selling or implementing our system. So a lot of vendors will say, okay, it's up to you to make sure your network is sufficient. We're going to sell you the system, and if you have call issues, well, that's your problem. That's not how we work. So what we do is we run a program that's going to simulate the volume of calls that we're expecting for your network and run it over 3 to 5 business days and essentially send voice packets or data packets back and forth between the phone system and your network to see how it performs. And then we really just get a pass or fail. We have had to walk away from a couple of potential customers because their internal network was not up to snuff. We had one, they were using a residential grade firewall that just couldn't handle much traffic. Another customer had a very limited internet connection. And that's another question that people often have is, what kind of bandwidth do I need? And the answer to that question is, it really depends. The good news is voice traffic has become much more efficient than it was several years ago. So voice packets have gotten a lot smaller. You don't need as much bandwidth as you did years ago. In general, the number of users or the amount of minutes you're going to be using per month is going to indicate or dictate how much bandwidth you're really going to need. So that's the whole point of doing the testing ahead of time, is we put those parameters in, we run the test, make sure that's going to be able to handle the voice calls when they come online. There are quality of service settings as well that we can configure for firewalls that prioritize voice traffic. Those are settings that we like to do up front and not just rely on the default firewall settings for passing traffic. And finally, Intermedia has a team monitoring their back end 24/7. They must be doing something right because they've received quite a few awards, including the J.D. Power Award for service and support. So they do get rated very well. Okay. So we've talked about reliability, security, and quality of service and how we're going to obtain those. Let's dive into some of the feature sets now. And I always like to start with this first one here, the E911, so I don't forget. Anytime someone dials 911, the authorities need to be able to find you, right? And one of the nice things about a voice over IP system is I can take my phone that I'm talking to you on now, and if I go up to our New York office as an example, I can just plug my phone in up there and I'm at extension 102, just like I am today. If I go on vacation, I can take my phone and plug it in a hotel in Bora Bora, I wish. And I'm going to be at extension 102 no matter where I am. So that's one of the nice things about these systems. So when you call our help desk as an example, you might get me in New York, you might get me in Florida. It really doesn't matter as long as you can dial 102 and get me. The downside to that is if I dial 911, the authorities need to know where I'm at. So what you're supposed to do is if you do move your phone from one location to another is to log into the system and just update your extension. Here's where I'm at. And I do that. If I bring my phone up to the New York office, I just quickly log in when I get there, say, all right, now I'm in the New York office. So if I have to dial 911, they can find me. Okay. Next, we'll talk about faxing. Sometimes when people have an old analog phone system, maybe they're still using analog faxing as well. We don't see a lot of that today, but just in case that is something that's important to you, there is a solution for that. They have a web fax component. The way that works is incoming faxes will come into email. So you would designate what email address you want those faxes to come to. For outgoing faxes, we would set up a printer essentially. So if you had a document, or let's take another example, let's say it's a piece of paper, you would have to scan that in, get it on your computer, and then print it. And you would choose the print to fax printer. Once you choose that, it'll say what fax number do you want to send this to. You type in the fax number, and out it goes to the receiver's fax machine. So there is a faxing solution that comes with this. They have a feature called Call Flip. So if you are walking out the door, you can send a call over to your cell phone so you can continue that phone call. Vice versa, if you're on your cell phone and you want to flip it back to your office phone when you get back, you can do that as well. You get unlimited local and domestic long distance with this system. Unlimited. So the only thing you need to worry about is if you're making international calls, or Alaska and Hawaii are actually outside the scope there. So if you are making those types of calls on a regular basis, you just want to make sure you've got a plan that includes that. But if you're making calls in the lower 48 or local calls, all of those calls, no matter how many you make, unlimited, all included in the price. And next on the list here, we have what's called a Find Me feature. So you get to decide how you want calls to your extension to be handled. And again, that's the beauty of voice over IP and the fact that it's really a data-driven system here. It's a computer, and a computer program, you can do lots of things with it. So you can decide, I want to ring my office phone 3 times, and if it doesn't pick up, I want it to then ring my cell phone, or ring my cell phone twice and then go to my voicemail. I want it to ring my cell phone and my office phone at the same time. You can set those, and each individual extension can be set separately and how that person wants them to be set. So that's called the Find Me feature. Okay, again, included with the system, you're going to get availability to a desktop app. So you log in to this piece of software, whether it's on your tablet, Mac, or PC, and you get a screen that looks kind of like this here. A lot of times this is handy if somebody wants to go home. They leave their phone in the office, but then they just log in on their computer, on their laptop, to the desktop app, and they can answer and make calls at their extension from this app. So some of the nice things about this, you can see other people in your organization. You can see whether they're on the phone. You can chat with them. You get a call history. You can do things like video chatting. You see up here up to a 12-way HD video. Lots of functionality. You can do web meetings. A lot of functionality with the app. And a lot of our guys actually use this all the time, and they actually don't ever use their handsets. Along with that, there's a mobile app. Again, great for flipping calls from your office phone to your cell phone. You're going to get all the same functionality you do with that desktop app with this mobile app as well. You can see all the folks in your office, whether they're on the phone. Thing to remember about this is because this is data traffic, it's actually going to be going out the data portion of your phone. So if you're on a Wi-Fi connection, as an example, it's going to be essentially like making a Wi-Fi call. If you're in an area that doesn't have Wi-Fi, it's going to be using your data, not your phone minutes, but your data minutes to make these calls. So this is something to keep in mind. But again, a lot of functionality here and a lot of ability to stay connected, whether you're on the phone, computer, or your actual phone itself. Other features. So voicemails will go to your email if you're out. You missed the call for whatever reason. You're going to get an email if you want, and it will save the voicemail as a WAV file as an attachment. So you just click it, and you actually listen to the recording on your computer. Some of the typical features that you would get with most phone systems, the three-way calling, call recording, the park, things like that you would get with a traditional phone system, all included in this as well. You also get some call metrics, and they do have, I guess, a couple levels here, but really, unless you're running a humongous call center, the built-in call metrics are more than sufficient. So I can log into our system as an example. I can see how many calls were made in a particular day, and I can see details, who called who, when did they call, how long was the call, to what extension did it go to. If you've got a hunt group like we do, we've got support and sales, I can see the call actually came into the support hunt group, but it was picked up by this particular person. You get all those call metrics at your fingertips, all included in this. Just another point about hunt groups. I know I touch on hunt groups a little bit later, but a lot of flexibility there. So when you set up your auto attendant, if you want one, and press 1 for support as an example, you can decide not only who's in that group, and you can have people log in and out. So if they're on vacation, they can log out of the group and log back in when they come back. You can decide how the calls actually work with that hunt group. Do I want to ring all of them at the same time? Do I want a sequential ring? Ring this one first, then that one. Do you want a round robin? Or if somebody's on the phone, it skips them and goes to the next. All those things are built in and very, very configurable. And I put the busy lamp here at the bottom. That depends on the phone that you've got. But what the busy lamp is basically the indicator that somebody's on the phone. So you obviously get that with the desktop app and the mobile app. That's easy to do. But be able to see it as a button on your phone, you have to have the capability on the phone or the right phone to be able to do that. But you can do that if you have the right hardware. A lot of times for like a receptionist, you might want to get that receptionist panel that's kind of a bank that connects to the phone and set up all your folks have their own button, I guess, on that panel, and you can see when they're on the phone. All of that is doable with the system. And finally here, they also give you what they call any meeting, where you can do meetings with screen sharing, HD video. You can record meeting sessions. That software comes with the system as well. It is a little bit limiting. The any meeting, you can only have 4 participants in the meeting, so it's a little bit limiting there. Also have conference bridges. You can get the traditional conference phone. I always say it looks like a spaceship that you put in a conference room. Those are available. You can do what we prefer is the always-on conference bridge. So you can dial a conference number with a host and participant login that's always available. That's what we do. If you don't want to do that and want to do on demand, you would just log in and schedule, all right, I want to use the conference bridge from this time to this time. If you're not doing a ton of conference calls, the always on is really nice because you never have to worry about setting it up. You just use it. The danger in that is, let's say I have an 11 o'clock meeting and someone else schedules one at 11:30. 11:30 rolls around, I'm still talking. People start joining the 11:30 meeting. They're going to be joining my meeting. So you just have to be aware of that. Okay. So the cloud voice over IP system is great for multi-location offices. Like ours, I can take my phone wherever I want to go. It's great for DR, so if internet goes down at one location, you can automatically fill it over to the other. You've got very configurable auto attendance if you decide you want one. Some people prefer to have a receptionist answer, not have an auto attendant. You can do that as well. I mentioned the call groups or the hunt groups before, where you can decide, set up a support or sales group, decide who's in there, and decide how you want those calls handled. It's really good for people that have no receptionist. It's good for people that have one receptionist. And it's good for people that have a lot of receptionists. So in any of those scenarios, the system is flexible enough to handle that for you. Okay, so let's wrap it up here. Colden Company and our partner Intermedia can bring highly functional, highly reliable phone system to your business with low capital investment. That's the beauty of the cloud component of it. No computer for you to manage. It's all on-site it's all in the cloud with high availability. Very, very scalable. If you go from 5 users to 500, all you need to do is have the phones and the bandwidth to do it. There's no upgrading the back end. That's all on Intermedia to provide that back end for you so that they could scale you up essentially immediately. If you want to go from 5 to 500 users, it's a click of a button. Business does not wait in today's world. So having that fully functional, unified phone system where you're integrating your desktops and emails and cell phones really is a competitive advantage. I know some people are nervous about cloud. I read recently there was $187 billion in business done in the cloud last year. So the cloud is here to stay, and it's there because it does offer some advantages. One last point is talking about the low capital investment. Most of the time, I would say 85% of the time that we're proposing a phone system, we get free phones from Intermedia. They're almost always running specials on free phones. I can only think of a couple of times when we quoted and they weren't available. So you get free phones for free as well, which is a nice thing. We got all new phones at Colden as well. It didn't cost us a penny. So that really keeps that capital investment low. And also, I didn't have this in the presentation, but there's no long-term commitment either. So if you decide you don't want to use it after a few months, you're not locked in. So that's another nice advantage there. But the value proposition, the low cost, you get increased reliability, simplified scaling. As we mentioned, you can scale up on demand. Increased productivity and collaboration with the different ways that you can move calls around, and of course the business continuity. Okay, at this point, I'm right at 11:30, almost like I practiced that. All right, so let's open that up to some questions. I did see a couple come in. I'm going to put up on the screen my contact information. So if you do have questions that you don't want to ask today or didn't think of it today, or you're just looking to hear more about it, my contact information is on the screen there. I'm at extension 102. All right, so let me dive into these questions here. First one I think came in before I talked about it, but it says, do you have to have an auto attendant? And the answer to that is no. You will get one. You get one with the system when you buy it, but you don't have to have it. You could have the main number ring to a receptionist. It doesn't have to be answered by a computer system first. So again, very, very configurable here. You can even do layers upon layers in your auto attendant. I guess I didn't touch on that, but you could have hit 1 for support, somebody hits 1, then you could have a sub-menu that says dial 1 for computer support, dial 2 for phone support, or something like that. So you can embed different menus in your auto attendant. Very, very functional. Okay, question 2, can I use my existing phones? And it depends on your phone, essentially. If it's not a phone that's designed for voice over IP, the answer is going to be no to that one. My recommendation is always just take the free phones. You can reconfigure phones that were used for a different voice over IP system and reconfigure them to work with this one. They have to be certain models to be able to do that. But my feeling is if Intermedia is willing to give away free nice phones, take advantage of that. Okay, looks like there's one last one here. Can I port my business phone number over? And the answer to that is yes. There's a porting procedure where essentially we would work with your current provider to request the port. There is a delay in how long that takes to happen. And it really depends on your phone vendor, how quickly they get on that. Typically what we would do is we would set up the new phones, start the number port, and then in your existing system, you would forward the main number to a temporary number that we would have set up as your main number. And then when the port actually happens, then everything, you're basically done with your old system. So yes, you can port numbers. There is a fee to port toll-free numbers. Just remember that. It's not big. I think it's like $8 or something like that to port a toll-free number. But yes, you can port your existing phone numbers. Okay, those were the only questions that came in. So I want to, first of all, thank everybody that took time out of their day to listen to us talk about improving business communication and the modern phone system. If you're interested in hearing more, you've got my contact information. Please reach out. We're happy to help. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you.